Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our Saturday Anything Goes series. Hope you're having a great weekend. We actually had a day without rain yesterday, so woohoo! Although it looks like it might be clouding up out there. Still, we're thankful for the sunshine when we get it. Today, I thought we would make this cute little treat box. Look at that. Isn't that adorable? And it only takes a 6x6 sheet of DSP and then a little bit of scrap Whisper White to make your sentiment. And I usually cut about 16 inches of ribbon, and that's it. So this goes together very, very quickly. I love the DSP that I used on our sample box. That is from our Garden Impressions. It's actually the reverse side. That is a DSP that, I tell you, they just knocked it out of the park with giving you not only the wonderful main patterns to use, but the reverse side of everyone is also great. So this is the reverse of one of them. But I thought we'd switch it up a bit, and I am in love with the Tropical Escapes paper. Look at this. Oh, all of my favorite greens. Hi, Sally. Thanks for joining today. So you've got, let me see if I can remember the colors here. Shaded Spruce, Petal Pink, Granny Apple Green, and Seafoam. So 4 different shades of green. You have a little pop of black just to give it a good accent. And that pink just really balances out the greens. Reverse side is also very pretty. So the inside of our box is going to look as good as the outside. I'll bring out our Simply Scored board here. Could use my trimmer, but I want to get really good score lines with this. And if you have directional paper, you'll want to be sure your direction is at the top. This can go any which way, so not too worried about it. And make sure you're butted up flush against the edge of your whatever scoring tool you are using, because your score lines are pretty important here. So with our direction at the top, we're going to go ahead and score at 1/2 inch. And then we're going to score at 1 1/4. Move over and score at 3 1/4. And at 4 inches. All right, so those are our first score lines. Next, you're going to flip the paper over. So we're still keeping, if you're using directional paper, it's still going to be at the top. So flip it over. And here you'll score at the 2 3/8 mark. So there's 1, 2, 3. And you'll score at the 5 1/8 mark. All right. We've got one more set of score marks, and then we'll start putting it together. Now, remember, on our directional paper, we have the direction at the top. If I did this, I'd be able to tell that. So what we want to do is we want to flip it to where, or to rotate it, I should say, to where the top of the pattern is facing the left. Okay? So I've got my directional pattern at the top. I flipped it to do more scoring, and now I want to make sure that the top gets rotated to the left. So I'm sorry, I told you guys wrong. You know, let me do it with something that makes more sense. This is directional. Okay, so we scored it first this way, and this was just a prototype I used out of old Christmas paper. And then we flipped it to do the 2 3/8 and the 5 1/8. And now we want actually the bottom of the direction on the left-hand side. So sorry if I confuse you. Bottom against the left-hand side. All right, make sure I've got this right. So our bottom goes at the left. And if you're ever confused about it, just put your paper, if you've taken it off like I have and you can't remember where you were, just remember your very first score mark was the 1/2 inch mark. So if I line this up, I can see that this is the top of where I started. And then I flipped it and did my 2 3/8 and 5 1/8. And now I want the bottom rotated to the left. And there's just 2 more score marks we're going to make, and that is at 3/4 of an inch and at 3 3/4 of an inch. Make sure I've got, there's my 1/2, 3 3/4, and that is all the scoring that we're going to do. So I'll put my scoreboard away, and then we have some cutting to do. With this one, I really did find that having a prototype was easy for me, because you want to make sure that you're cutting away the correct part, or your back will actually be your front, and that's no fun. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and fold and burnish on our score lines. So just make sure I can see my score lines there. And let me finish scoring this, or folding this. I want to show you something, because we have an area where there's actually 3 score lines right next to each other. And I'll show you why we want that there. So here's a score line, here's a score line, and then there's one right in the middle. A little hard to pick up on camera, but we want to fold that one towards us rather than away from us. And I'm just going to pinch it in the middle here. And then I'm not going to burnish it. I'll tell you why. These are simply the little, I call them the pleats, that allow our little bag to collapse. So if you see right here how I can collapse it, that's because I have a mountain, a valley, and a mountain. And that's what we're doing here. So I have a mountain, I have a valley, and then I have a mountain. And if I've scored this correctly, they should all pretty much line up. So on this side again, I have a mountain there and a mountain there. So I'm just going to kind of pinch it like that. And it doesn't have to be a crisp line there. That's why I'm not worried about burnishing it with my bone folder. A lot of this area we're going to cut away anyway. So that's what it looks like. All collapsed down. Okay. Make sure I've got everything. I've got 2 more areas that I need to fold and burnish here. And now we're ready to start cutting away. And this is where my template came in handy, because as you can see, we've got our mountain, valley, mountain fold area here, and that corresponds to this. So we know this is our right-hand side. This is going to be our flap. And hang on, I need to turn this over to make it to where I've got the right side up. Okay. So that's our mountain, valley, mountain on each side. And I think you can see the score lines better on this side. So what we want to do, this piece is going to become our flap to attach. And this piece is going to be our fold over flap. So I want to cut out this entire section here. And it can be very confusing if you have your paper turned the wrong way as to what you want to cut out. Hence, that's why I made this. I can lay it right on top and I can see this is what I need to cut away. So I'll go ahead and cut up my fold line here. And we're going to take it all the way to where we've got that 2-inch area right here. And then we're going to go ahead and cut You can almost see my score line there. Cut right down that area. So that to me is the most important cut, because if you mess that one up, you got to start over, and we've got it correct. Now we just need to cut up the score lines at the bottom, because these are going to form our flaps. First of all, I'm going to just miter this corner here, and then I'm going to cut up each of these. I'm not going to cut up that valley fold that we have there because it becomes part of our flap. So important to know, we cut up on either side of that at our score lines. So there and there. Then I'm going to cut, oh, can I see it there? There. And I'm going to leave that valley fold and cut up there. Okay. Now we don't need this outer piece here, so I can cut that away. And now I'm just going to miter in. So this is going to be a bottom flap, and this is a bottom flap. I'm just going to fold those back so they're out of my way, because these tuck-ins, I want to miter them to reduce the bulk. They just give a little strength to the bottom of the bag in keeping its shape. All right. Oops, I didn't cut that very well. And that is all the cutting that we need to do. Oops, except I do want to miter this corner here as well. So let me just turn it this way. There. Now don't throw this piece away. We're going to use it, but this is what you end up with. Got a little bit left of my score line here that's a little rough. I'm just going to quickly cut that away. All right. Now it's time to put our box together. And all you need are 2 pieces of tear and tape. So we're going to stick one on the flap with it folded in, because remember, this is going to tuck down. And then we're also going to put one down here, because this flap, let me just see if I can kind of put it together for you. So the 2 little tabs down there fold in. This one, the bottom or the back flap folds up, and the front flap folds down. And then this will fold over like this. All right, so that's why we need to put the tape down here as well. So just 2 pieces of tape. And this one I'm going to put towards the edge of the flap. And then here on the flap that actually seals our box, I'm not going to put it towards this edge. I'm actually going to put it right along our fold and scored and burnished line to keep it nice and flat. I love tear and tape. Okay, give my tape a good burnish. Take my paper piercing tool, also known as my pokey tool, and that will help me to remove the backing. And I'm not going to remove the backing from this one just yet, because I want to fold this flat this way. That makes it easier to make sure that you're lining up your score lines, your fold lines here and here. So we have a little bag that is going to be flush. So make sure I'm lining these up just like that, and then press them down. And if you do happen to get a little overage, sometimes that can happen if your paper is not completely squared off. Just remember you can come back and trim that if it bothers you. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and remove the backing from the bottom flap, and we will finish putting all of this together. Oh, you know what, guys, before I do that, almost forgot. I like to fold this over, but how did I get the ribbon? Because it is actually attached to the flap. I used my scallop punch to give this a decorative edge. You don't have to do that. You certainly could just take something to punch a hole right in the center there, but I really like the way it looks. So I'm just going to slide this up into my scallop topper, tag topper, and punch that out. And that gives me that nice little hole where I can thread my ribbon. And it also gives it a very decorative look. And the reason I wanted to do that before I sealed this is I could get it to lay flatter. I didn't have to worry about being able to push this up into the punch as far as I needed to. So let's go ahead and finish this up. Remove that. Tuck in my flaps. Fold in that part. And I'm trying to make sure that I've got it lined up flush here. And then I'm going to bring this and fold it flat. And again, if you get any little areas there that bother you from sticking out, all you have to do is take your snips. I'm going to take my small ones and simply cut along that line. You will have a little bit going in simply because we have our little creases there, but I didn't want a lot of bulk at the bottom. So trim away anything that you're not happy with. Easy breezy. And that's how it's going to look. Let's go ahead with our ribbon. For this, I went ahead and chose some Shimmer ribbon in Pear Pizzazz. So I'm adding yet another color of green, but it really goes very well. It coordinates. So to add this, I'm just going to put the ribbon down, lay the box on top of it, and bring my two ends up. And I'm going to feed my ends into that slot from the bottom. This is what's going to hold your box down. Once I've got that, I usually stand it up so that I can start pulling everything through and making sure that it's not turned cattywampus. I managed to keep it pretty straight. Finish pulling this through. And you can make it as tight as you want. Typically what you would do is whatever little treats you're going to put inside, you'd probably stick them in first, because that definitely will determine how tight you need to pull your ribbon. So make any adjustments you need to. And then tie a bow. And for that, I found that if you turn it upside down, it's actually easier to tie your bow. And the tails tend to come out with the bottoms facing down. So let me just do that. So pull this through. Tell you what, having that little hole there, so handy. All right, and now you get to watch me try to do a bow on camera without my bow maker. Hi, Amy. See what I mean about the tails usually being down if you fold it upside down? All right, make any adjustments you need to. I just kind of move the ribbon around a little bit. You can move it up or down here, which helps control the tension on the box. And once you're happy with it, go ahead and snip your tails. Now, if you find that you have a hard time with your flap folding over, one of the things you can do is take your bone folder. I'll show you with this piece. And if this didn't want to come over very easily, just take your bone folder and run it along the bottom side, and you can see how it curls it, and that will make it fold down much easier. Last thing we need to do is put our sentiment on. And for that, I went to the Detailed with Love. There's a really nice thank you that works perfectly for this. And I cut out ahead of time. Oh, I'd also pulled out some of my old stash of powder pink. That definitely you could use as well. But I went with the green. And I cut the smallest stitch shape circle. And then remember I told you to save that piece, not to throw it away? The reason is I cut out my 1.5 inch circle. And make sure that's right. Yep, 1.5 inch circle. I used my 1.5 inch circle punch and just punched the opposite side so that I would then have something coordinating to go with it. I had enough green on this that I didn't want to use that. I had a piece of scrap of another piece of the same DSP family. So it's still the Tropical Escapes DSP. But I thought bringing in a little bit more pink, I was happy with that. The sentiment, I'm going to go ahead and stamp in Granny Apple Green. Love Granny Apple Green. So get out my stamp here. It's already mounted. I know I'm being brave by stamping this before or after I cut out the circle. Normally I would do the stamping and then cut out the circle. But since it was something I needed to run through the big shot, I thought I would save you guys from listening to me have to do that, as well as it can shake my camera sometimes. All right. I'll just pull this down and line it up. This one is really a pretty easy one. And there's my thank you. I like that, but a little tip that I learned from Liz Yulee of Old Stables Craft. Take your blender pen, and I'll use that end, and before your ink is completely dry, you can pull some of it into the white center if you don't have a full stamp image like this one. And that will bring just a little bit of that Granny Apple Green right into the center, which I liked that it gave that little bit more pop of color. Okay? Very, very simple. I'll bring that up to where you can hopefully see that. Now we're ready to finish it off. I just used a couple of our Stampin' Dimensionals to attach these. So I put one on the back of my sentiment circle. Attached that to my coordinating paper circle. And then I decided to also pop that up. So one more dimensional. And then you have a decision to make. Depending on how far down you've got your ribbon, you could decide to put it up here at the top. Or if your ribbon if your flap is up higher. And why would your flap be up higher? Well, depends on how much your gusset needs to expand to hold your goodies. So if you find that do a dry run, and if you fill this up with your goodies and you see that this is pretty short to where that won't fit, you can always take and stick it at the bottom right there. Completely up to you. This one, I think I'm going to go ahead and tuck it in Let's see if I've got enough room. Let me flatten my gusset there. And I definitely do. So I'll just attach that there. And I still can raise my flap up. It just means that I'm going to have some of my sentiment panel show here. I'm okay with that. And that is why I only put one dimensional on there. But it's completely up to you. And that was just about everything I did. We still could put a few embellishments on it. And you know me, I like a little bit of bling. So let's pull out our goodie box here and see what we want. So we can use our rhinestone jewel accents. I could use, ooh, the pearls go really well with this. I'm liking that. I could use one of the seafoam green accents. But you know what? I'm thinking I like the pearls. On my other one here, I used a little, I was going to put a little rhinestone accent there, but this one, I think, cries for pearls. So let's pull these out, and what color? You know me, I'm going to go for pink. There's lots and lots of green on here, so let's just pick up one of our pink ones. Well, if I can grab it here. There we go. Just decide where you want to put it and lay it down. And if you want to use more than one, you certainly can. Like there's room on here definitely for a second one. So we could do that. And I could even take, ooh, come here you. Because I don't have any treats in this, there's not, it's hard for me to get it to have a firm surface to stick to. But we'll just try that. That's better. Okay. We could even take and put a third one actually on the bag itself. Except mine doesn't want to come away. Oh, there we go. So you know me, I like odd numbers. Look at these, they're sticking everywhere. Get off. So I think I'm just going to kind of go in a little bit of a triangular pattern here and put one right over here. Come on. Oh, for pity's sake. Get out my pokey tool. That works better for me. All right, so put one right there. And there you have it. There's both of my boxes. Let's see if I can prop them up to where you can see a little bit better. There we go. So on this one, we went ahead and we put our sentiment panel at the top. And on the other one, we put our sentiment panel on the bottom. It doesn't matter which way you do it. It's however makes the best sense to you. All right, well, that's what I wanted to show you. So I hope you've enjoyed today's session. Like I said, it only took 6x6 sheet of paper and just a couple other supplies. I think this is going to be a great one, and I'm going to bring in, there's another one I made. That one was for, like I said, Christmas last year. So I think I'm going to make a bunch of those for Christmas this year, and just, they're a nice size to hand out to people as you see them for a nice little treat. If you have any questions at all about the supplies used or about measurements or score lines, please do leave me a comment, and I'll be happy to respond to you. I will try and get this up on YouTube. I didn't do Tuesday nights because for some reason it kind of got really bad quality at an important part of the video. It's still up on my Facebook business page. You can see it there, but I think this one is short enough that hopefully I'll be able to upload it. Join me on Tuesday night for our Tuesday night series. We're going to use the really pretty Time for Tea stamp set, and we may try to make a teacup out of some DSP as well. I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.